Welcome to my Sorare Journey, episode 116. Today we have some massive scores, some winnings for the community team. We look at some horrific luck on my purchases, and then finally we finish by looking at the new winter promo and seeing if it's worth me playing. So let's get into it. With this team to start off, why I start with this team is because it crept in to the second rare Premier League hot streak by 1 point. I was watching it very closely as Leno made a last minute save and then conceded, and then I was like, I just need him to not touch the ball. No rescoring, don't give possession away, anything like that. And it worked perfectly. Bruno Guimares, obviously the big saviour here. You know, I haven't used him in season at all. So to put him in my second priority lineup and for him to hit and be captain, I felt happy with that. Also winning the sort of coin flips. Big shout out to Dub FC. He told me how to sort of correct on my pronunciation of how I determine whether a player is starting or not starting. Obviously, previously, I've always gone for 60%, 70%, 80%. And I'm sure many of you do that at home as well. You know, following Sorare Inside or wherever you might use that does like a percentage, because it's easy to use, it's easy to communicate, and it's easy to compare. However, it is actually not a good metric, because when you're saying 60 or 70%, that is an exact science. It is 60% likely to happen. But obviously a prediction is just one person's prediction. So the 60 and 70 could be 70 and 60. Like realistically, if we compared everyone's predictions. When you're just looking at one player, you should be, 90-80 certain to start, if fit, obviously. Obviously, any 80%, certain to start most of the time. Then you have likely to start. That's where you're getting in someone like Florian Wirtz that is likely to start most games but rotates out. Then you have your 40 to 60%, which is your coin flips, and then below that is sort of unlikely to start. And I was getting in a position where I was really treating 70% over 60%. And now I'm sort of going to try and explain them to you and explain them to myself as likely or unlikely. So Palmer in this chance was a coin flip, whether he'd start and whether he would play a long time. So he got 60 minutes, which I was happy with. He put up 57. I was watching him. He was not very good. Fofana was more somewhere between like likely to start and certain to start. And I'd say he did well for, a 0-0. He could have done slightly higher. He was like 68 before a review. But overall, happy with this team, except for Van der Ven. If you watch this game, Van der Ven made the most clear last man tackle ever. They gave it to him and then they take it away. So, it was someone from Opta gave it, and then someone from Opta literally a minute later, potentially the same guy, reviewed it and said, no, that's not a last man tackle. Why that annoys me so much is not because I'm on a good score, although it does annoy me, because it's happened 3 times in 1 week. So in their previous game, I forgot who Spurs played, he had 2. Now one of them was the best goal-saving tackle ever. I'll try and put it on screen, where he slid in, got the ball, completely saved the goal, keeper was out of his position. But they're saying Pedro Porro's behind him, so now it's not a last man tackle, but it still saved the goal. And if you look at like someone like Romero that got a last man tackle in this game, his was like didn't save anywhere close to a goal. Like even he wasn't last man because Van der Ven was in line with him. And Van der Ven had the exact same thing in the game where he made a tackle and someone was in line with him and they said it was a non-last man tackle. So again, it's one of those things on Sorare where it's very beneficial when it pays off to you, but it feels for such a subjective call. It probably shouldn't be a decisive. But yeah, I don't want to get into it for now. The scoring works. It's quite good. Now, I was absolutely buzzing with this 421 because it got me my hot streak until I saw some of the scores. So in Div 2, 545 is going to be first place, which is wild. And that's nothing because Div 1 is higher. Now, I was very happy with this 421 points because it hit my hot streak. But, of course, I've got Captain Bruno Ferandes, so I would have hit it by some way anyway with 452. But we had a 592 A 592. That's like almost a max score. And this has a lot of XP, I can tell. I don't know if it's getting a 2% boost as well. I mean, I feel so sorry for like this guy. He was first all game. Like, I'm pretty sure, was it this guy? Yeah, he had all his team play on Saturday. And I was like, okay, well, that score's unbeatable. But it's not. We've just had a ridiculously high scoring week. A lot of key players getting, you know, obvious decisives. Bruno against Wolves, Foden against Sunderland, you know, anyone against Burnley, really. And then, yeah, this was a bit surprising in terms of a clean sheet, but it's one of those where if they did get a clean sheet, you could see them getting really, you know, high AA as well, because they'd be stopping chances, Vicario would be making saves. So, you know, it makes sense as a team selection, but, you know, if you look at this guy getting $100, he must be fuming. Like, what more can he do? He's got, his lowest score was a 57. He's captained 100. He's got a clean sheet from an unlikely, you know, clean sheet. But this is so rare. This is why hot streaks are so beneficial, because I've come out of this, you know, 452 isn't record breaking, or, you know, that particular. I've got 750 essence, which I'd be happy with, but I've got my second hot streak. So I can go for that $200 third hot streak next game week. And that's not the only things I've been winning. Quickly, just touch on it. To show you how high this game week was, Division 2, you're not getting promoted with 421 points. I hit the second hot streak and I'm not getting promoted to Div 1. So, very high scoring in the Premier League. But like I said, it's not the only money I've been winning, because I'm winning for you guys as well. Now, this is the community team, so all rewards for this team go to you guys, and I haven't actually drawn who's going to win it yet. If you want to enter, just drop a comment, say something nice. It'll probably be more likely to get you entered into the draw. Or if you want guaranteed entry into the draw, you can use my Ko-Fi link. The minimum donation is £2, and it just says, thank you, I like this content, make more of it, and I will. But we went one step further than that, because we thought this team's good, but I keep struggling with this midfielder, and O'Reilly is going to potentially lose his spot at some points in some games, either through rotation or anything else that Guardiola is going to try. So a little bit scared between these two. You know, I didn't really have a better option than Gibbs White here. So we went and got one for you guys. It is, of course... Oh, I've changed the order, but you can see him anyway. Bruno Ferandes, special edition, £68. I had some market credits to use. I really think Sorare screwed me, because I bought Van Dijk to use my market credits, and then it never used them. So I contacted support, and it's been about 2 weeks, and they're just not getting anywhere. So I was like, I'll just spend it. It's probably what they wanted me to do, but I had a day left on the credit, so it's either like, spend it or don't. And I was like, the community team's doing well. I've got some very nice comments. I've had some really good donations from you guys, so it makes a lot of sense to go and get the man. Now, you might be saying you got him before 100. That is just unlucky, because I bought him on the weekend, so I didn't actually get to play him this week, as you would have just seen. Which, yeah, is true to a degree, but there's also a special event. So I've got an extra $2. So at the minimum, we've got $7 for someone that has either commented or donated to the channel. And I think that's a good start, you know. It really pays to have the hot streaks. And hopefully, we'll draw 2 weeks in a row. And do you know what? Maybe we can roll into a second hot streak. And maybe it's even the same player. We'll do the draw now. Let's have a look. So in terms of the draw then, these are the 10 last donations on my Ko-Fi. I've gone to my last 2 videos. And Clown World FC is going to get a entry for this comment. Doesn't matter if Xerxio Mount miss all the chances. That was what I said. And then they both scored in the game. So I've cursed them into scoring, but it meant Bruno got assists. So I'll need to add Clown World. And then also on the second last video, Jack Gardiner. Not hard to read that one. I just struggle with reading for some reason on videos. Great price, Van Dijk. Hopefully he pays for himself in soon. In no time, I actually think he said. So all the names have been added. The first name will win the guaranteed cash, which I think is $7. And that is going to Dumb Money FC. Thank you very much for donating to the channel and supporting. Now we will respin, and this will be for the upcoming game week. I think we've got difficult fixtures because Man City play Palace, but of course we've got Bruno Ferandes in hot form now. So hopefully we can use him, or it might be better to use him in one of the specials. We'll have to see. Leeds United community again. Guy's always winning, but it's because he's always commenting, he's always donating, he's always supporting in some way. So it's good to have, the niceness paid back to someone. I'll quickly touch on my classic teams because you can actually win stuff from these teams. I just don't seem able to do it. Probably because most of my players are Premier League and Bayern Munich smash someone 5-0 every week with Harry Kane scoring a hat-trick and everyone's got him captained. So that's not great for me. What's really not great is Rafinha DNPing and Salah DNPing. Now, I don't know why Rafinha was rested. I assume because he's just back from an injury. Salah, getting very hot with that guy. He's dropped for the Champions League game. So that is going to be feisty whether he plays for Liverpool anytime soon or if Slot gets a sack. I have no idea why they haven't sacked him yet. He is just not a good manager. You can take my word for that. I saw him against Roma back when he was playing for Feyenoord. Managing Feyenoord? I think so. You'll correct me if not. Anyway, now I'd say I've been reasonably positive in this video, but I don't think I should be completely positive because of this man. Moises Caicedo, one of the best Premier League midfielders, and I picked him up for £200, right around here. And he has dropped to 124, 130. That might be a buy. I mean, okay, that is a good price. I'm seriously debating getting another, which is worrying, but anyway, I bought him, and a lot of you were saying it's a good buy, some good prices. Let's see what my man Caicedo's been up to since we got him. So he comes into the team and drops a 0 when we finish 67th. So as good as my 450 points this week. If he had scored highly, 100 points, keep in mind he's getting a big bonus, would have got us $4,000. 90 points, 80 points, probably would have done the same. Even if he had just played, probably $200. But he didn't, and that's fine. It's a game. This thing happened. Next week, gets sent off. Straight red card. And what that means is we get relegated in Division 1. So Florian Fernandes, who you would have seen put 421 points up, would have reduced his rewards. Okay. And that means he is suspended for the next 3 games. Now, we have suffered 2 of those, and the final one is against Everton. Now, why that is really starting to rattle me is because I have some good teams. This is a really good team. We're going for that 3rd hot streak, which would get me $200. Be very, very helpful. But the second team, it's struggling a bit. You know, if I could drop in a Caicedo here, it would be elite. But I can't because he's suspended. So, although I feel like I'm winning, I know I'm not. Because, yes, I won $40 and a bit of essence this week. Caicedo's dropped by £70, or call it $100, which isn't great. Now, you've got to zoom out and say you bought him for the entire season, but killing a potential $4,000, then being suspended for the next 3 games and relegating my team, it does take your toll on you. So Caicedo, you have a lot to do. You need to make this up. But let's actually talk about... We'll talk about the Champions League teams quickly, because I have an outsider chance. Caicedo, I'm giving you a massive chance to make it up to me immediately. I'm giving you the armband. It might be out of spite. Do something good. Limit team, probably not got too much hope. Surprisingly enough, this probably has quite a lot of hope for me, because not only are they like smashers with good fixtures, all, you know, guaranteed to start or highly likely to start, but an 8% boost. Now, this is interesting if you do this at home. So 8% on the entire raw score of these players is going to be huge. But we could sub in an easier fixture. You know, Van Dijk against Inter. What, they conceded 3 to Leeds. Could concede 5 to Inter. You could put Saka in. Now, if I put Saka in, I lose 5%. So is Saka worth an extra 5%? I've obviously gone for no at the minute. This might change before the game week. Maybe we could put in Bruno Guimares and get it. Is Bruno Guimares better than Van Dijk at the minute? Probably is, but he's 70% likely. So, do Newcastle rest in the Champions League? I'll need to speak to my man Hatton, but I doubt it personally. But I would prefer Bruno over Van Disler in current form. We'll hold it there. We'll captain Rafinha and speak to Hatton, who is a Newcastle fan. He is quite good at predicting as well. So that is a good start. And then, yeah, if we do look forward, what I'm thinking is Wolves are the worst Premier League team in history. Anyone that's playing Wolves, smash their players. So I think in this case, we need to see how Arsenal play midweek. If they please rest Saka, Arteta, I know you don't like resting him, but please, you can beat Club Brugge without him. Noni Madueke, player. Not really, but he's been playing fantastic. Give Saka a rest. Please, because that should guarantee him for this week, which, funnily enough, is what's happened to Palmer. Palmer is rested. He will not play Champions League. That's been confirmed. That is super helpful for me. Bruno Ferandes doesn't have midweek. Van Dijk, he is playing every game. He will play every game unless he gets injured. Yeah, his scores, even when conceding goals, like 3 goals to Leeds, are still fantastic. So I'm pretty confident in that team. Now, 440 points is a lot of points, don't get me wrong. And in the Premier League, it's so hard to hit. It's a little bit easier in the Bundesliga, but it's not easy. But you've got top of the league versus bottom of the league. I've got lucky that I've got that opportunity. Also, obviously, I don't have Arsenal's keeper in season. I've got Fulham, who are obviously close to bottom of the league, against Burnley, who I think are second or third bottom. So that's a nice one. Palmer can beat anyone. It's given me that hope. I think that it's a hope that kills you, because Saka will play against bloody Bruges and then he'll rest him against Wolves or something like that. But yeah, I don't hate that going into next week. Obviously, a lot of things will change between here and then, but I don't know if you'll get a video out from me in that time. The other thing to remember is I can essence craft. Now, I'd be interested to know what you'll do here. So in terms of essence rare, we've got 3,000. We'll be winning hopefully another 900. So we'll call it 4 crafts. Now, 4 crafts, most of them will be Premier League, but we do have a lot of essence, a lot of All-Star. My plan was to hold this till next season. I just am so bad at crafting. The card values are so low. But there's no guarantee I'll play next season. And it wouldn't shock me if Sorare did some weird system where you can't convert all your essence. Like last season, I had all these market credits saved up at the end of the season. I was ready to use them in August. And then they just said, oh yeah, market credits are expiring on this date. Make sure they're used. So I had to go out and just spend, I think it was $200 of market credits, which I was saving up. So, although now it's probably not optimal, it might be worse if they force me to use the essence. Now this season they let you carry them forward, so you would hope they do the same, but obviously it comes out of their back pocket at the end of the day. So I don't know. It does worry me the amount of supply as well. Like, are good cards still available to craft? The thing that makes me want to craft most is the fact I can do 4. So, well, I do like trying to use these sort of new clues as well. But definitely the draw odds, it's like 1 in 4 will be a special tier 2. I think it's 1 in 5 actually. Oh no, here. So yeah, so 75% chance of standard, which means a non-standard draw will be 25% chance, which is 1 in 4. And obviously I've had incredibly bad luck recently. But if I can get a decent player from the Premier League, it could really help to me hit that first hot streak. And then it basically depends who Wolves are playing. So let's have a look at Wolves' fixtures, because you do need to plan ahead very slightly. Oh, home to Brentford isn't brilliant. So Burnley are second in the league. Are Burnley having like a top team play them next? Bournemouth. Oh, we'll try West Ham just to hope that we can. West Ham, Man City. Okay. Now I do have good Man City players. Do you know what? This is another thing. I've been doing really well on my sort of team selections. Like, if you look at this week, I've put all the best players together. I could have improved by taking Saka out for Palmer and Garner for Guimares. That was basically the only change. I could have put Fofana in for Van Dijk as well, I guess. But, that's not a huge points difference. Van Dijk only lost his points at the end. In that case, Saka was certain to play. Palmer was a coin flip. You would take Saka just for the safety to keep in Division 1. And Garner was on a 68 before he got... I think he lost one more duel and it cost him a triple-double. So really happy with how I'm building teams. But some of my... I'm going to have to blame myself, but some of my purchases are just so unlucky. Rodri, I purchased him after he'd come on against Bournemouth. So I'm like, he's back to full fitness. I know he only played a minute or so here. But I was like, okay, over time, by now, he'll be guaranteed to start again. Injury prolongs. I have no idea why. I have no idea when he'll be back. Solanke, obviously much less costs. But he was due back early November. It's now early December. No sign of him returning. There's some other guys in here. I mean, Palmer was obviously a big one for ages. Aït-Nouri. He was a huge money signing for them. Maybe not huge money. He was a big money signing. He was very, very good in his first couple of games. All of a sudden, O'Reilly has a good couple of games while he's off, and he's lost his spot. I mean, I get it with Aït-Nouri more because it was always a risk, but I just feel this season, Trent's out injured again. Saka was injured at the start of the season. Ruiz has been injured. Rafinha's been injured. Lino's in a different team. Jay David just every week Sorare Inside has him at 80% and they get it wrong. He's always benched. Paulinho's now being dropped, who's been, in my opinion, Spurs' best player. There is a lot of bad luck from players I've bought, and some of it's my fault. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm taking the risks on Rodri, Solanke, all these other players. A lot of risk was taken buying injured players, but everything just seems to be, in terms of players, going against me. In terms of lineups, it's going fine. So just quickly before you go, now we've hit the first target of the winter promo. We do have that $2 market credits, but the $10 market credits is actually quite appealing. Now, I thought it was one player across every level, but it looks like you need to have 2 targets hit it, and then 2 targets, then 3 targets, then 3 targets. Now, it's 10 plus on the last 15 average, which can be quite a lot, but obviously you get to pick your fixtures. So I was just taking a quick look. You can go to Spurs, and you got some decently average scores, but they do have the likes of Archie Gray and Jed Spence. So Jed Spence averages 34, and you can pick them up for £8.50, of which I already have market credits. Now, I did not know this. Now, it looks like they'll take the minimum of 35, so I assume if I picked a 0-point player... okay, so it won't be 10. Now, that's a clever rule, but not something I knew about. So, Jed Spence seems like a perfect option here. The one thing I want to check before we continue is how much was Jed Spence before these promos, because you've got to imagine that, if you miss it, he's not going to be worth anything. So, rare in season limited. Let's take a look. So, overall, we are still not in the right place. Brilliant. Right. So, in season limited, £1.74. It's a bit high of a risk. Unless you get the one on auction. But obviously a lot of people will be aware of this, of him being pretty likely to start in an easy fixture. So you can see some people have already looked ahead and tried this. But it's definitely one of those things where if you have the time to scout, you can take advantage. We'll take a quick look. See, the problem is I don't know if these two players need to be on the same day, or if I can just do Jed Spence and then at the weekend, let's say, wait for Ferandes and do him again. Now, you don't want Ferandes because he's got such a high average and it will only go up after 100 score. But I imagine I can use them whenever. So we'll take a look at Bayern, see if there's any rotation. They're going to be playing full strength, and obviously their full strength team has a very high average. You could gamble on Neuer, but then you need a clean sheet, which is probably not wise. You're looking for a Jed Spence that needs very little points. I think Arsenal could be good because they're expected to rotate. Their defence is shattered because everyone's injured. Nkape's back, is he? Now, what you want to do is use a player that has utility. So Nkape should have further utility because Saliba's still out and Gabriel is out until about the new year or end of December. I wouldn't be against a Wanyeri or something like that, but you can't guarantee he plays. Timber, too high an average. And then PSG. See, in the Champions... Oh, Dortmund. Bodo Glimt are not very good. You do want a 90-80% though, otherwise you really are coin flipping. Yeah. Now, because this is a bit of an easier game, you could definitely take someone like Emre Can, but yeah, you don't want to take those 60% risks, because I imagine if you lose your streak, you reset. I haven't read the rules on this because it was all limited, which I hate. I've spent all these money on rare cards, and they basically mean nothing. I know there's that Colosseum game mode, but I need to buy 3 special editions. So I've just bought Halloween ones. Why are they now pointless? Anyway, rant over. Yeah, I would just say consider this, especially if you're a lower budget and you've got time to scout and find really good options early, because you could be looking for next weekend. I assume because I get 7 days, I can use any days. Like I could go to Saturday and be like, oh, it's every team as well, obviously. Yeah. So I could buy an Arsenal player and wait to see... Can you wait to see if they're in a starting lineup? That'd be even better. There's an idea. Now, I'll leave that with you. I'm going to probably chat about it in my Discord with people that know more about it. So join the Discord for Sorare help and general football chat. But besides that, I hope you have a good day. All the best to you. Cheers.